Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I've actually been calling it my show recently because I've had guest stars on here and different people that it just makes it really hilarious. And so it's kind of turned into a little bit of a show. So I'm just going to start calling it the Sarah Upside Down Show because you just never know what's going to happen on here. Anyway, I decided to make tea instead of coffee this time so I can actually somewhat stay on track. So we'll see how it goes. It's already gone cold like 3 times and I've already had to warm it up. Yes, if you haven't been here before, I have content on autism, ADHD, just neurodiversity in general, and mental health, along with just other stuff that I like to throw in there. Hey, Ken. Yes. I didn't have time to make coffee, so I made tea, and then, I let it get cold like 3 times. But yeah, good times. This is also coming from someone who made notes yesterday, and the first thing I needed to talk about was on the second page. And so I went and started reading the first page and was like, this doesn't seem right. I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I turned the page, and on the bottom, I wrote first really big so I would know which page I actually needed to start at. It's horrible. Yes. So anyway, I wanted to look like a cool teacher. I'm like a masculine Mrs. Frizzle. So I don't think I'll keep my glasses on for long. They're kind of causing me sensory with being able to see the screen in my glasses, and it's driving me nuts. Ooh. But today's topic, if y'all saw up there, is language and reading and the skills, struggles, and but also imagination that can come with that. Now, some of this information is specifically for, kids and adults on the spectrum. Others can be also for just children in general, because some of them may have some of these things, whether they're struggles or gifts or whatever. Some of the kids will, not be on the spectrum or not be autistic and have these things. So it's good information just to know in general. Some of the words I'm probably not going to pronounce right because they are just hard to say. And I had to push the little vocal button over and over again. How do you say that again? But anyway, we're going to do the best we can here and get on with the show here. But so I'm going to take these off. They're getting on my nerves. But so with sometimes people in the spectrums, kids and adults, both, they have different types of either disabilities or reading skills. Now, a lot of the times, the things that are looked at are just the disability side of things. A lot of that's looked into a lot more, but not so much the skills or not so much the other language differences or barriers sometimes that are with the autistic community as well as, just like I said, kids in general. So a lot of them are hard for the parents to know about whenever your kid's in school. I didn't find out about some of these things for myself until I was an adult, because I just assumed this is just what people did, and whatever. I found my way around it, so you get used to it. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is one that I have brought up before, and that's hyperlexia. Now, I talked about this when I had a different topic. I think I was explaining different traits. I'm not sure. That was weeks ago. Who remembers weeks ago? I mean, really. But hyperlexia is, being able to read quickly, start very young, and you're also able to take the information in well. So you're not just reading really fast, speed reading, and not getting any of it. You're like reading, speed reading, and being able to take in all of this information from a very young age. And then, of course, a lot of autistic adults anyways are known to be really good researchers, look deep into things, like all the details, and then being able to retain that information, except for if you're like me, you just don't really use it that often. But I am for this channel, so there's that. And then the concept and ideas on autism and speech delays turn people away at times from diagnosis. Very subjective. Popular in autistic people, but NT can be neurotypical. So when people say NT, just for FYI, that's neurotypical. It's people who are not in any way, shape, or form really on the spectrum, the autistic spectrum, ADHD, dyslexic, or not dyslexic, sorry, but some autistics are dyslexic. Whatever, brain. Bleh. So anyways, they can be very subjective about it. It's popular with autistic people, but neurotypicals can still be hyperlexic. I mean, if they don't display anything else, but they have hyperlexia, then they still have hyperlexia. That doesn't mean that they're on the spectrum, but a lot of times they will display like other autistic things. And I would say people that are hyperlexia probably won't get noticed as much. Hey guys, because things like dyslexia have been known for a long time, and many have known about it for a long time, but most people, if you bring up hyperlexia, do not understand what that means. They don't understand what that really entails. I mean, they could even think it's like dyslexia, which really it's like the complete opposite in a sense, besides how it's spelled. So, and dyslexic people may at times receive more help, but hyperlexic will be seen as sometimes cheaters for being so good at what they how fast they're able to read the information they're taking in, and then being able to write. Because, I mean, think about it. If you can read that fast, if you can take that much information in, it's not meaning you're always going to be a good writer, but I would say it makes a lot of good writers. A lot of this information that I got this from is from autistic writers that have blogs and other things. And yes, I will link all the links, or all the links are already linked below because I did something beforehand this time. Oh, goodness. Yeah. So all of the links from everything that I get my research and content from will be down below, so that way you can read more of it yourself. I mean, there's so much information out there, surprisingly, for hyperlexia, and a lot of it is adults that have that. So anyway, on to the next. People with hyperlexia can learn to teach themselves to do many things. And I've learned that another thing that's good about hyperlexia is also good at learning languages, because not only do you like to read your own, but like I started trying to read a Japanese book by just reading Japanese words, while I was collecting Japanese stuff. It was all at the same time. Just by picking up the book and reading it. Now I'm super ADHD, so I do have some of the dyslexia, forms of dyslexia. So for me, I would say it wasn't a bonus to have like the mesh of all of those. But anywho, I'm going to pull up my handy dandy slideshow here, because I always like to make pictures because I love visuals and they're super helpful for other people. Some people just don't quite get it audio wise, and so I like to just put some different things up. Oopsie, let's see. Hold on one second here. if I can get this. Aha! It's all figured out the day before, and like I know how to push the buttons and everything. It's like that stage fright thing where you're like, I had it, and then, you know, stuff happens. Whatever. Just get your just get your stimmy toy, get the anxiety out from having to you know, talk in front of how many ever people are going to watch this. So here we have from World Recreate blogspot.com, executive functioning fails in language. We are moving on to the language side of things. And trust me, the hyperlexia thing does go along with language. It connects still. You know, it has to do with reading. It has to do with being able to form words, knowing bigger words. We'll get there. We're not there yet, but we'll get there at a different time in the video. So I'm just going to play with this like crazy little buddy toy that I got my daughter, and I took it from her because I needed it. So, whatever. And go over some of this fun stuff. So it says here, I actually have to correct backward sentences in most of my posts, and I still have them because it is not my natural way of speaking. I put the subject matter in the opposite form that most do. I also learned most of my language by reading when I was young. I was self-taught in many ways. I was an early speaker with full adult sentences before the milestone ages. I sounded like an adult, and I often was treated older than I was, which sometimes served me well, but also caused issues with expectations. I thought to be capable, this mean I had to find my own ways to work around my real struggles, disabilities. This is often another sign of autism, which gets overlooked. I still love to hear the sound of certain words. I love people who use challenging or university level words in books. And I can sometimes sound like I hail from another century altogether with my word usage. Yes, welcome to my life. I mean, I definitely had like a lot of issues like learning to read and things like that versus maybe being early learner. I had to learn by like picking books that just had pages and stuff. And I'll tell more about, you know, my story with that later and how I've kind of like worked to, you know, kind of get around some of those things or extra tools I picked up so that I could basically learn as much as everybody else. Well, really, I would say more because I get super obsessed, but in my own way of doing so that I can still comprehend the information. Because reading comprehension is no fun. So anyway, that's that little paragraph. I did put the link for that below. There's a whole section of stuff in her blog, way more information. Just check them out. And, you know, I'm using their stuff. So I appreciate them for posting awesome things. And then I loved this word. I'm going to try so hard to pronounce it right because I love huge words. I love words that have like just so many syllables, like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yes, that like just so much fun to say. I feel it in my mouth when I'm saying the word. Like the word is a flavor or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's cool. It's fun. So precocious speech. This has to do with language, also has to do with words, liking words, different words, which means, you know, they're speaking, but they're speaking like at a quicker pace and more. It is something that is in the language things of kids and adults on the spectrum. And it's something that's just not looked at more, which is why I'm bringing more of this information up. It really needs to be out there more. I didn't think a lot about some of these things myself, mainly because I've just always been this way, and I didn't really understand the different language, either struggles that I had or gifts. You know, it just was not really, you know, there or told, whatever. So this word here is susqueppedalian. Okay, everybody say that with me. Sesquipedalian. I feel like it's the name of a reptile. Like in my brain, I am seeing a reptile when I say that word. And this word can also be used to describe someone or something that overuses big words, like a philosophy professor or a chemistry textbook. If someone gives a sesquipedalian speech, yes, I totally got the word. Like, that was just such a big one. Sorry. People often assume it was smart, even if they don't really know what it was about because they can't understand the words. Each of those long words is referred to as a sesquipedalia. Anti-disestablishmentarianism like, what? Is a sesquipedalia. In fact, it's the longest non-coined and non-technical word in the English language. So, there's like been different kids and adults or whatever that like I've seen, and some of which know they're on the spectrum. Some just really enjoy reading, and some don't know. They've just always been known for being able to do those things. They don't know that it's connected to like the hyperlexia is connected sometimes to things on the spectrum. Or sometimes, this precocious speech is also a sign of autism, and everybody just that's kind of in these fields, for the most part, at least that I've seen anyways, all the schools that I've gone through with my kids, all the, like everything that I've gone through trying to get them help and whatever, like for the past 2 years or so, it's just like not a thing. Like they don't look at the excelling of words. Like my son will repeat a word that he hears over and over and over again because he thinks like it's a really cool word. And that is probably a pretty big word for a 6-year-old, or it was for a 5-year-old when he was 5. But like a lot of those things aren't looked at. So that's why I kind of wanted to start with that first, kind of combining the hyperlexia with the precocious speech with the sesquipedalian words. It's a really punny. Sorry, it is. It's really punny that sesquipedalian happens to mean the use of big words, because it is like a really funny, hard word to say, and then it means really big word that most people don't know what it means. Like, did people even think about this kind of stuff? It's ridiculous, but it all connects. Things just connect, man. Hey! And for those of you who like hear the replay, sometimes I am just like, I have a thing, I guess, maybe part of my language thing, where like I say what I'm reading out loud, or I read what I'm saying out loud. See, I just did dyslexia and another thing at the same time. Whatever. See what I have to deal with myself. It's great though, because I can say and read and do things now. So we are going to move on to the next section. Aha. And this was just for people who, like I said, I will tell my little story in a second, but people who struggle with audio processing, sometimes that's hard having the YouTube channel, because I know that at different times I do, or some people actually struggle with reading it, so they need audio. I kind of have both that going on, so I try to make it like somewhat accessible to, and that's why I've loved adding the slides in case you like to read it yourself. But I did post links for where these pictures or these things come from, so you can do it in your own time. So, yes. Onward to signs of hyperlexia, and me saying the same word like onward over and over again. It's a thing. It's a part of this. We'll figure that out when we get to the next section, I think, if I remember what that was. So signs of hyperlexia. Oh my goodness. The first one starts with precocious. Again, I like that word. Self-taught ability to read words above their age level appears before age 5, sometimes. Significant difficulty understanding verbal language. Yeah, I get that. Intense fascination with letters, numbers, maps, or visual patterns. Yes, I said yes to memorizing license plates, and I've always been obsessed with maps. And whenever they ask you that on the little test thingies, yeah, I definitely was on that side of the things. I don't know. It was like a game to my brain, and it was fun. And visual patterns. Visuals are great. Difficulty answering what questions. Echolalia, which we talked about in a previous video. And if you need to go back to that one, it is pretty interesting. But I'm going to talk somewhat about an area of that in a minute. Difficulty interacting with peers or adults or just people, period. Rarely initiates conversations, intense need to keep routines, need for sameness, difficulty with transitions, normal development until 18 to 24, then regresses, difficulty with abstract concepts and thinks in concrete literal terms, specific or unusual fears, listens selectively or appears to be deaf, sensory sensitivities, strong auditory and visual memory. Now, as you can see at the beginning, it was all language things. It's all different ways of how you speak and how you're doing that and how you're connecting it to people when you're speaking with them. And as you go down and you know, go regress to the bottom of that, it actually has like almost every single one of those is an overlap for being on the spectrum, being autistic. So look here, I am not nuts. This is connecting. It connects. Get it together. Put it together. I like to say this saying that I'm not a puzzle that needs to be solved, but I like puzzle pieces and I like connecting stuff together. We like to problem solve. We like to connect things. So there you go. There's your solution. But like I said, doesn't mean that all kids that have hyperlexia or have, you know, dyslexia are on the spectrum. It's just a lot of things do overlap, a lot of those routine things, a lot of the language things. So yeah. Anyway. So on from Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, which I have also posted a link below, I found a couple things from there that were very interesting about some of this because, and this article or this blog or whatever was written in 2018. You know, of course, things change or whatever every year. So, but it was also by an autistic person who had gotten lucky to have a great psychologist, and they helped them through learning about some of the different language stuff that they had. It says here, fortunately, the psychologist who diagnosed me with autism realized that not all autistic children start speaking late. Sorry, like I want to say that 3 times because, you know you want to do it too. And some children that speak late might just have the speech delay, you know, so there's still that, you know, there's just so many bias like things on this. I won't even go into that because I just can't. But some start speaking early. Not all professionals seem to realize this. I have almost never seen precocious speech on signs of autism, quote unquote, is how she had it, lists, which often focus only on delayed or deficits. While talking early is considered a strength, does it have anything to do with a huge influence of autism speaks? I will not go on about how I could rant on that for a while, but you know, you get it. Whose advertisements also often show, she's saying Autism Speaks, who have advertisements that often show a narrow stereotype of a silent, somber child, question mark. Yeah, I mean, That's pretty accurate. I won't go into talking about all that. There's plenty of people doing that for me right now. I'm just gonna roll with this language stuff, but it doesn't really help society or people acknowledge things in their own children or even in themselves if they don't know that they're autistic, if even they have a biased view on what autism is, what hyperlexia is, not even knowing what it is. There's a lot of ises right now for Riz. But I'm just going to do this on top word real quick. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. I would just say it's like false advertisement. You know, you go to the fast food restaurant because they have this new special like limited edition slushy or whatever, and then you get there and they're like, we're all out, and I'm like, you know, that's not very reliable. So you get what I'm saying with that. Metaphors. A Google search for autism and precocious speech brought up almost nothing relevant. Same for me. This is in 2018. We're in 2020. That's like, you know, I got to count on my fingers still because I do have dyscalculia, but whatever. That's like years, whatever. Some of y'all are math geniuses or whatever. I'm not. So, I just can't. But, yeah, it's still like that because I was looking this up and I'm like, I can't find anything. Like, this is insane unless it's written by autistics, which kind of says something. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have had tea either. Sorry, guys. It just gets crazy. It's called stage fright and anxiety and like I forget what I was gonna do all together. So yeah, no Google search barely says anything about it. Even among the autistic community, she says, I seldom notice any discussion of early speech. I mean, yes, now that part has changed, but that's because like in the autistic community, we have learned ourselves and researched to no end about this stuff. So like it has grown since 2018 in that area, but definitely not with like the rest of the world, you know, and sometimes this just isn't parents' fault. This isn't, I mean, people just don't know. We're not in 2020. I'm obviously stuck somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just really hasn't changed in that side. Like you bring it up to someone and they're like, oh my gosh. You know? And it's like, honestly, that's how I felt because I had no idea about it. I ended up looking it up because people were saying I am articulate with, you know, when I'm talking and stuff, or just like really fast, like the Flash. But I was like, I am? That's a thing? I thought it was dumb. So I was completely confused on all of that growing up. So anywho, that's another thing I keep saying. I try to change anyway from anywho, and then I found out you're not supposed to say anyways. It's supposed to be anyway. I mean, gosh, you know, this just gets whack. Like language is confusing, period. So she says here, I've noticed that parents and teachers sometimes think everything a precocious child enjoys has to challenge their brain, or it isn't worthwhile. Wrong. If a second grader can read on an 8th grade level, that doesn't mean books written for 8th graders will be interesting or relevant to them. Man, that like blew my mind. You know, blew my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow. I mean, obviously, it's not that I wouldn't have thought of that at all. It's just that, like, you know, it makes sense. Just because they can doesn't mean that that's what they want to read. I mean, but, you know, they're probably pushed to do so because they have that ability. I mean, I still like teenager books, like fantasy and stuff like that. So I still like the teen stuff. So, she says, when I was 7, my mom threw a fit because my dad bought me a computer game I wanted, intended for age 7 and under. I continued to enjoy the game for many years. Challenging your brain is important, but doing things just for fun also important. Life lesson. I need to know that. Like, if you weren't told that because you are one of these children, Whether you're on the spectrum or not, maybe just have hyperlexia or have precocious speech. Well, there you go. Sometimes you just need to enjoy something. Like me, I'm about to be 30 next week, and I read books that probably the 16-year-olds read, and I enjoy them way more. I can read whatever now. I got audiobooks, okay? Yeah, audiobooks. So, yeah. A child who sounds like an adult is a child who sounds like a little adult is still a child. A big vocabulary does not equal emotional maturity, especially for someone with a developmental difference or disability. My difficulties with social communication and emotional regulation were no less real than those of an autistic person who talked later than average. And knowing a lot of words definitely didn't mean I knew how to put my feelings into words. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what that makes me want to do, because I'm just like, that is so real, so frustrating, but also so good that I know that now, because, you know, other people have made these things to read. So definitely go check out that link too for Autistic Women and Non-Binary. It's AWN Network, that one, whatever. Check it out, because that's legit stuff right there. I mean, it's real. Like, it just is. It's awesome. So, we're going to go on to this next slide here. And we have dyslexia. So, you might have to make your screen bigger. I can't see. I can see it on my, extra screen over here, but I cannot so much on this unless I make it bigger. So, just for you to read. But I also did post the link from where this diagram came from, so that way, you know, you could print it out or look at it. Some people actually like to have paper stuff still. I get it. Like, I get, like, why sometimes some of us have to talk so much, because, like, I literally researched this for like a good year and a half or so. There's so much information and so much to get out, and like, I just don't want to split a language video into like 5 different parts. Okay, so I will talk slower if that will help some, but just know it's going to take a little bit longer to get it all out. So, you know, whatever. So dyslexia. Yes, I didn't know throughout school what dyslexia was, other than, oh, those kids get to have some really cool paper. I wish I could have some bright colored paper. That sounds really cool. I mean, raise your hand if you thought that's what dyslexia was growing up. Turns out I have dyslexia. I mean, not the typical form of dyslexia, you know, or I guess like what most people like. It's like dysgraphia, because there's different types, which is like hard to get your thoughts to paper. So when people tell me to journal, I just want to go. I mean, partly because I'm stubborn, but also it's like a huge struggle. So anyways, this page probably has I think it has like all the diagrams of dysgraphia, dyslexia, and all of that. So you will have more information. I'm just going to read the basics here, but so at the top, spatial temporal difficulties with telling time. Yes, left-right confusion, gets lost easily. No, no, I didn't get lost getting my coffee to the room. Memory difficulties, dates, alphabet, timetables, phone numbers, sequences. I've realized the older I get, this is definitely one of those that's not getting better. It is like worse. So it's frustrating how that happens. But, you know, there's different little tricks and things that can help. Motor control difficulty copying. Yeah. You know, I've read this before, but I forgot that one was on there. I'm like, that I just can't. I just sit there and watch them and try to listen, because I just cannot copy like it unless I'm copying in pictures. Like a lot of times when I'm in my class on Thursday, I will just draw whatever they're talking about, or like try to draw a basis of what they're talking about. And that's how I take notes. Wish I would have known that in school because it has been really helpful. Handwriting difficulties, coordination difficulties, reading, needing to reread, yes, losing place in text, yeah, moving or overlapping text, spelling, difficulty hearing sounds, can't remember what it looks like, so on and so forth. Writing, can't find the right word. Yeah, so y'all can all check that out from that link and all the other forms of dyslexia. Again, just like hyperlexia, this is something that people can have, but not necessarily be autistic. I don't know why I'm doing this, but they don't have to be autistic to have dyslexia. This is really important things. I do know people that have dyslexia, and I try to just keep it in mind with my kids, and it's just I know the signs of that, and it's helps so that if they do struggle reading or writing things or whatever, that I'm attentive to it and I'm able to help them in how they may need. Yeah, so, and y'all know me, I cannot be serious all the time. Ken definitely knows this because he's probably worse than I am. If not the same, because we're just hilarious. So of course that means I have to bring on funny memes, because this is how I cope with all of the things that I have a list of. I cope with the memes. So, Yoda has dyslexia and he's been making it cool since 1980. Dyslexia is spelled all kinds of, just it looks nuts like that. Like, it hurts my eyes to look at it, but like it's just also still funny. Then you got this Sonic kid. I definitely loved Sonic growing up. Maybe I still do because I love Flash and I love Sonic, and all those characters are relatable, I feel like, to the ADHD side of my brain. You're right. I'm goofier. You're more, what's that word? I can't think of it right now because whatever. Words. Sometimes I like big ones. Sometimes I don't know any. So here you got the Sonic guy, me getting told off for not working in class because I finished my workbook at the start of the year. The problem of being faster than light is that you can only live in the darkness. Okay, that one was more for like hyperlexia. But bad handwriting. And then he says, it's just my own font. That's good stuff. And then you got this one, rogue. Corporate needs you to find the difference between this word and this word. This is the same word. Anyways, you get my point. This is real life for dyslexics, though. I try to make it fun for me because it's still going to be there. And, whatever. There's memes for that. Now we are going on to vocal and verbal stimming. I feel like that kid's about to just rock out, man. Yeah. And the different types of vocal and verbal stimming. And I have talked about this a little bit before as far as echolalia. But this also is things that they look at in language with children on the spectrum. I don't feel like they look into some of the ones like palalia as much either. That's not one that I've even heard as much in the autistic community. But some of these pictures I found from different accounts and stuff that are. So I'm learning a little bit more about palalia myself, and it turns out that that's definitely a thing that I do. So whatever. I can talk, I can't talk, I can read, I can't read. It's just, contradiction. I'm a contradiction to myself. It is quite a thing. But anyway, on vocal and verbal stimming, some of these things, it's to stim to get this area activated. Like, your brain is kind of telling you that you want to sing, like you need to do something with your teeth, your voice. Like, that's when I like chinch and grind and stuff a lot, all in order to get all of this activated. So some of these things can be humming, sound effects, mimicking. I definitely do sound effects all the time. Like, I feel like I'm just walking around as a comic book and people do things and I'm like, you know, whatever. Rooster sounds, I don't know, like, always done that. Some people actually complimented me on those things, because I definitely have a lot of them that were not as far as some of my language things. Most of that's because my ADHD. But anyway, sound effects are fun. Sounds in the mimicking sounds in the environment, you know, birds, whatever, choo-choos, trains, whatever, all kinds of different stuff. And then yelling or shouting, which is probably people's least favorite. If you happen to do vocal or overall stimming, that is definitely one that I need to do sometimes. Like, I just need to go out somewhere and, like, you know, get it out, yell it out, whatever. There's times when I just can't stim and stuff with my hands anymore, or use these tools. I am like in almost the meltdown thing, and I need to just go and do something about it. And so, you know, probably leaving the house and going somewhere that's better to do that. Because, yeah. But anyways, what this is helpful for, though, and why we need to allow, you know, kids to do it, adults to do it in whatever way. Obviously, there's certain places where, you know, not that it's, not to me inappropriate, but like, you know, like, you know, screaming at the top of their lungs in the library, things like that. But they need something else to use. So, you know, give them a stim toy and they can chew on it, or a chewing necklace or something else. Because you do not want to keep them from doing that and them have to hold all the reasons why they're doing that in. And then when they have the meltdown or get frustrated later, you are stopping them from that. And, you know, some autistics that can't speak, like, that is their language, that is their way of asking for help, that is their way of trying to get their needs met. And so they need to be able to do some of these things. That is some of their language. And sometimes when I am nonverbal and I'm in those places and my language is not there, where I would be considered autistic by, you know, most of the professionals or whatever, then, you know, I'm going to need something to use. I have an app that's a Aspie Meltdown app or whatever that I can show to someone, but sometimes I just don't have enough time for that. So I need to be able to vocally get it out, or however I need to, that way I don't end up in a worse position. So, anywho, it helps to block out bad and sensitive input from the environment in order to balance or regulate. So if you are like keeping them from this, or you're keeping yourself from this, then you're not able to regulate, and you're just going to keep all of those things in. Like, you're not stimming, you're not using anything, you need to vocal, you need to sing or whatever, and you're not, or you feel like you shouldn't, then, I mean, be ready for a tornado to come later, because it's going to come out one way or another, and sometimes it's whenever we least expect it, and that sucks. So, you know, vocal stems are something that also is used for expression. Don't stop them unless it's ear splitting, but try to help them find something else, like music, a toy, like a flute, something that makes sounds, something that they're still using this or their teeth or their jaw or whatever with. They need to stimulate that. That's why their body is kind of doing that on its own. You know, there are things that really hurt my ears that my kids do sometimes, because I get sensory overload really easily. But, you know, I got my own headphones. They have headphones so that they can, like, make their own sounds or whatever and not get on each other's nerves. Like, there is tools where they can still stim, they can still vocal stim, they can still sing, and, you know, not bother the other sensitive the sensory kid or adult. There is ways to do that. And some of them is just like sucking up your pride and not being embarrassed if your child is doing that. So that was all I will say on that note. Do not use a, oh, Kai's going to love this one. Do not use a clicker on your child. They use clickers to teach children like dogs. So there's dog clickers, and the dog clickers are to try to help them do basically obey and do things or stop doing things. And they have started trying to use these on autistic children and maybe some autistic nonverbal adults, that their parents or caretakers are still taking them to these places. And they really just need to be redirected, like I said, something to chew on. And I chew gum. That's like what I do, or I sing in the car. I have to sing really loud and do stuff before I go in somewhere because of the social anxiety, because all the pressure. I know there might be a lot of sensory, whatever it is. And so I need to be able to get that out. So as Dory says over here, just keep stimming. But if something is literally screaming, like someone is literally screaming, and you just need it to stop, like me, I just can't handle it sometimes because of my own sensory struggles, the negative sides of my autism anyways, very sensitive to audio processing issues, and, that. So I try to redirect my children to do something else or to sing or something instead, so that, my brain doesn't feel like it's going to explode. I mean, you got to be realistic about some of this stuff. My daughter loves to vocal stim. Sometimes she isn't able to tell me what she wants or different things like that. She has a hard time expressing her wants or needs with words, and she has definitely gotten better, patience and time. And just not like trying to shove them into it has helped. But, she could be, that shows me like, okay, maybe she's a little bit nervous in the store, or maybe the lights and things are causing her more sensory. So she is singing the same sentences and stuff over and over again, a form of echolalia. And that is her language. That is her expressing what she is trying to say, which is probably an Elsa song. Like Elsa constantly feels trapped. She's probably feeling trapped in this basket that she doesn't want to be in, and these lights are bright, whatever. But what it does tell me is that, she is feeling like she needs to self-soothe. And so sometimes I will stop the car and we can take a break for a moment. She is speaking to me. That is her language. And she is seen by most people as, yes, probably hyperlexic, probably someone who's going to have high speech, books, and loves pictures, and is a lot like me in those ways of, just the pictures, and has always loved taking pictures and whatever. But when she has her moment where she needs to express, it might not always come out that way. And it takes me seeing her and understanding where she is at in that moment, instead of being frustrated that she's not using her words, just trying to meet her in the middle. And I find that helps a whole lot more. So, with autistic adults, same thing. We struggle with some of the same things. We might do the same things. And when we're adults, we may communicate in those same ways. So it takes if you have a loved or close one that is autistic or on the spectrum, or someone just, that has these language difficulties, but not the other stuff, whatever, just know maybe they are trying to speak to you. No, they don't think that you can read their minds, but they might not be able to get the words out, or might not be able to even understand what they are feeling. Another thing called alexithymia. And so their language comes out through different means. So anyways, we will move on to this little bottom down. See, this girl right here, she is vocal stimming. She is stimming and drawing, and she is saying the same thing over and over again. Meow, 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 meow. which, you know, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, well, all kids do that. I mean, how many times have I heard that one? But for, you know, specifically autistics, we do that all the way until adulthood. I still do a lot of those things, like the palilalia, you know, and the echolalia, singing the songs, vocal stimming, and palilalia, which is involuntary repetition of words. And so, especially, like I said, if I really like a word, like sesquipedalian, gosh, I know y'all want to say it. It's just such a cool word. I want to say it over and over and over again. And if I didn't have to do a video right now, I'd probably say it like 10 more times. And like, that's something that I do, or I want to get the word like into my head because I want to be able to use it. And I know what it means. So, you know, whatever. Make speeches fun for me anyway. Palilalia is when a person is involuntarily repeating themselves. So, you know, they're just doing it. They're saying the same thing over and over. Other people are noticing sometimes. And they just usually don't have much of an idea, I think, until they kind of learn about some of these language differences, or that isn't actually something that everybody does, which I hear a lot from people that probably don't know a lot of this information. They will say that because they think everybody does it, but that's not super correct. So hate to blow your horn on that one. Toot toot. Anyway, so that can be like sentences or words. Sometimes it's, you know, just that needing to stimulate. And so it helps to say, you know, that same sentence or words over and over again. You know, the Kid on Atypical does a lot of these things. I mean, that was a pretty good show, I guess, for, you know, showing somewhat of a difference of an autistic person, you know, but, you know, there could still be more, whatever. As y'all can see, I like to keep my opinions of certain things that cause chaos to the side. So, because that's not why I make this channel. You know, I have my things, other people have different opinions, and I probably agree with a lot of sides of it. But just so you know, that's why I avert those situations. So saying the same sentence repetitively to try to get something across, and, you know, not being able to stop. So, yeah. That is palilalia. And a lot of these things are terms and blah, and people are like, why is that really important? Why do you need to know that? Why do you have to put a label on everything? I mean, how many people have heard those things, especially if they are on the spectrum? It is something that we hear a lot. But there is a big reason for that, and I think that most of the community would agree on this thing. About the languages and about the terms of what each of these specifically means. I, you know, don't categorize it into putting it into like everything into a box. I like everything out of the box. See, the problem is that it's already in the box. I'm trying to take everything out, and then it's going to be like floating in the air in different spots, and I can just like grab it, which one is what, and like, then I know what I'm doing, basically. Because if you grow up your entire life doing all of these things, and you know, have no idea that, you know, that that's not something that other people do, or some of these stimming or vocal things, you know, why maybe you're getting kind of bullied for it or whatever. Like, it's just something that you naturally do. Like, why would it be wrong? So for us, the terms and stuff aren't everything. We're not just trying to put labels on stuff. At least I will say for me, I'm not trying to do that. The reason why I like to have all of these is because there is a lot of people, including me, that either had a really hard time, because I had a really hard time getting the diagnosis because of, the precocious speech not being seen, because being seen as verbal, because, all of these palilalia, echolalia, ABC, whatever, alalia, anemone, these things not being seen as being part of the spectrum. And so like knowing and having these terms and like whatever, it kind of helps us make sense of stuff that we do, because nobody ever really made sense of that. Like we just had no idea why we did half the stuff that we did, why our social things were a certain way, why we stemmed, like why we had to control everything. And then like me, you end up being like hypercritical and controlling different things because you've always kind of been controlled and put into boxes. And so I'm actually trying to do the opposite, which is take it out of that, have the labels out there. People can know what that means for them. And if that connects to them, because all of these things are a lot of times a part of being on the spectrum and are just not brought up very often. So that's all I'll kind of say on that matter. I'm going to go to the next slide, which is a bunch of different cool books. And we are almost done with this because we got to the book thing. Hold on. Let me just... I'm always in theme. So I was like, I'm going to do my hair like a teacher and wear my Harry Potter shirt because whatever. It's a cool thing to do. Obviously, I love all of these books. I picked a bunch of, a few different random ones that I really loved reading as a kid, from the times that like I could actually focus enough and the, dyslexia stuff wasn't making it harder. I had to also, it was like, it's like my ADHD and the autism and the dyslexia, like all trying to be friends is whenever I read all of these books. Okay. And now I read them to my kids because I really, really like them. So like my autist brain is like, you have to be insanely interested for your ADHD to focus, but you also have dyslexia, and so let's just skip a few lines here and like maybe a couple pages, and I lost my spot 50 times. Okay, I'm tired of comprehending what I'm reading, and so we're done with this book and not read for like another couple months, whatever. But when I was a kid, and I'll tell my little short story that I'll get off, I had I was probably on the lower area of that. I would go to the library and I would pick out books that didn't have any words on them. And my mom would actually help me because I would have to search the library forever, just looking through books or like trying to ask the person or whatever to like give me books that didn't have any words. And I wanted to be able to have those books so that I could create my own stories with the pictures because of my struggles with reading. I mean, I told my mom to take me to the eye doctor like 50 times when I was a kid, and she did a good amount of times. It turns out it was not my eyes, it was my brain. Did I not find that out until like 28 or whatever? Yeah, oopsie, no wonder school was hard. I mean, if I would have like had like known some of those things, I might have gotten a little assistance or whatever, but we won't go into that. So anyway, all awesome books that I like to read. And of course, there's more. I read a lot of self-help books. Most of the things I do now are with Audible. I would say I didn't have as much of a hard time with learning speech. I was more, I would say the Hyperlexia side of things on that was with the big words, with learning them by hearing and repeating. So the autism kind of helped me in that way with, the echolalia and the, whatever, and the interest for language, different languages. And then I excelled in learning language when I was in high school in Latin class. And honestly, it surprised me that I got an award for that, because I swear I just was like not good at anything. That's what I thought. So, whatever. Turns out I'm good at languages and learning words. But I know I'm not alone in that. I know there's a lot of autistics or people who have learning disabilities and things that have gone through those. And I have come to love like Audible books and things because I don't feel like it's cheating. I feel like I actually get to read, and I can retain all of that information in the same way that someone that's hyperlexic that is reading a book, like, with their eyes that stay in the same place, or whatever, however you do that and not hop around or have to read it 5 times. But I have been able to gain those tools to feel like I'm actually reading. And I know that a lot of people that struggle with these language and reading challenges have probably gone through similar paths. But I'm going to tell you, like, it's not over with that. It's not cheating to read audibles. It does frustrate me that, like, not every book I want to read isn't on Audible. And then I'm like, because I can read. It's going to take me a lot longer. I'm going to have to read over and over again. I do skim through it more. I probably miss details when I can actually suck it all in through the audibles. And I'm also a really fast person and always moving, so those help with that. But I can also just sit and listen to a book that I really enjoy, except for the downside of the fact that I love the smell of books. It's just reading them is kind of tough. So if you have given up on books and you don't think that it's even worth it because you have a lot of these struggles, try out audibles. Try out something that you've always really wanted to read through an Audible. Hopefully it's on Audible. But like, it is worth it to still try to do that. And it's good in that way, I would say, for technology. We have like a love-hate relationship, but it is good they have started to create those different accessibilities. I mean, back in the day, you had the tape thing and you put it in there, but I liked the tape recorder and liked messing with it. I didn't think so much about actually using it to read the books. I just wanted to like mess around with like the mechanics of it. So, whatever. I just thought they were cool. And if I was still a hoarder, I would probably collect that kind of stuff still. But I hope that you got some new information from this. There is, like I said, so much more out there. There really is. My channel is kind of to really help those who maybe struggle with reading and researching all of it. I mean, if I'm in a super hyper focus, like my ADHD will benefit me in that way, where I can research and I can zoom into everything. At the same time, it does strain my eyes more. I really have to focus more. And so these videos are good to help people that need that audio. I get it. And, have someone else read a book to you. It doesn't matter if you're an adult. My friend comes over and she reads those 16, 17-year-old fantasy books to me sometimes, and I get like just as in the story as if I'm the one reading it, just like kids. And it makes me feel good that they offered that to me, that they offered to read me a book, knowing that it will interest me, that I will be able to take it in that way. So so much different stuff, so much information. I'm all over the place, whatever. But I hope you got the point that there is a lot more, of course, about autism that people don't know about as far as speech and language. And then for neurotypicals, there is a lot that people, may want to learn for their own children or for themselves. That doesn't mean they always need a diagnosis, but also remember that just because your child has very big vocabulary, precocious speech, that they still will have struggles. So try to keep that like in there that they may be highly intelligent, do really well in school, maybe even have hyperlexia, and that doesn't cancel them out of having emotional depression, other things. They could speak like 15 different languages. They're still a human, and they may still need help. And remember what age they are. Some actually like reading advanced and above their years or whatever, but some actually, just want to be able to do some of the stuff that the kids their age are doing, not to fit in, but because they're that age too. So on that note, if anybody has any questions in the chat, you can ask now. It might just be Ken thinking about donuts and just showing up because he's my homie. But if you watch the replay and you want more information, or you're confused about something and one of the links doesn't explain that or give you a solution, ask me, let me know. And if I don't know it, because I don't know a lot of things still, I can ask a couple of my other friends that also have channels, and they may have more insight. So thanks for coming today and hearing my super speedy, fast flash talking on language. Before I go, so this is a book my mom bought me when I was a kid. It's the same one. She saved it in a box of all my Japanese and Chinese and Asian and whatever collectibles. I guess she thought it would help me to stop putting on so many different things. Because she has 50 skirts on here and 50,000 bracelets. Even the cat's got a bow on it. And I'm not gonna read the whole thing. It's a really good book to read though to your kids, talking about kind of being a hoarder. She can't even get her dress off. She's getting super hot probably. See, I'm just making up my own story to the pictures. Oh my gosh, now her back's hurting because she's just got so much stuff on her and she just can't take it off. Oh, look, they helped her take it off. Look, it's not in English down here because this book is a Thailand-based book. When her friends returned from the dance, Ari was still too tired to move. By the time they had fetched her parents, Ari was vain no more. Mother, father, I wore too much. I don't need all these clothes. And the next time she went to dance, she was lovely in one simple dress. And then there's a little about the story anyways. The Girl Who Wore Too Much. Super great book. Loved it since childhood. Went with all my other collections. But I just love that story because it honestly connects to me now in, the form of the whole masking thing. But also whenever I, wanted to grab, that identity back, who I am, I got rid of all my clothes and all my things. And then later on, I ended up getting this book back from my mom and realized, oh my gosh, we have to do that. I ended up doing that as an adult and getting rid of all this stuff and all these things, and books are great. But I realized that all those clothes, all that stuff that I had before was from all the people that I tried to mask to be in order to fit in or be the right person or whatever else. And now I just get to wear whatever the heck I want. It's a lot less stressful for that reason. So I would suggest to go through your closet and empty the whole thing out and just start all over and just find things that are you and whatever. Authenticity and all that crap. I'm going to go now. It was good having a talk. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Bye.